Hey everyone, Jay Staples, Sober Caddy, another great Sober Caddy Chronicle, and just feeling grateful, feeling real grateful that just incredible life, and of course. I love concentrating on the very few things that are not going good, right, positive, whatever you want to call in my life, and I want to just harp on that and just think about that, and how quickly I can go to, well, life isn't really all that good, and I'm failing at life, and I'm whatever it may be, the amount of lies and delusions that I tell myself just on picking apart the maybe 2-3 things that are not going as I would have liked them to, compared to the 25 other great things going on in my life. I want to harp on those things that very ultimately could become very positive things, but in this current moment I have no control over them, or it's not going as I perceived it. And you know what, I'm making a conscious effort not to complain about those things and talk about them, and be realistic with myself and to others, and get them out into what I always say, public air. Once you get them into public air, it just kind of loses all of its power. So I'm talking about it and analyzing it, and it's ultimately coming down to I'm not able to control it, and it's not what my will is, and it could ultimately be for the best thing down the road. In this present moment, it's not going as I want it to be, and that is what I want to harp on. In turn, while I'm also pointing out, like, there's a lot of great things going on in my life and so forth like that. So excuses, and I can easily go back to all the excuses I gave myself and to others and so forth like that, as to why I kept drinking and doing other things, and why this and why that, and all the consequences. I always had a story, and I always had a rationalization, and I always had this, and and so forth. I was a mess. I was broken as an individual. And one thing I do know is I've taken recovery-focused principles. Everything I learned in long-term recovery, those principles we learned, those tools, the outlook on life, the design for living that really does work, like they call, I've taken into every aspect of my life, and I view life differently. And you know what? I remember sitting my first job interview after coming out of long-term treatment, and the guy interviewing me was looking for a retail job to fold shirts and whatever it may be, and they asked me a question, and I said, well, I'm in early recovery from drugs and alcohol, and I've gone through treatment, and I'm trying to get back on my feet. And it had nothing to do really with the question. And he says, well, that's honest of you. What made you say that? And this is what I knew. I had a different way of looking at life, and I just said to him, I know it's going to come out anyway, whether it's today or down the line. I just wanted to get it out in the air, and then that way everything knows. And I would have hid stuff, I would have lied stuff, I would have twisted the truth on so many different things in this job interview. That's when I sat back and I knew that I was doing something different. And then he a couple of minutes later, he said, what do you think being in long-term recovery or recovery from drugs and alcohol is a positive thing? Is it affected your life, positively? My only response was, I never thought I could put drugs and alcohol down, and I have. And so if this Design for Living recovery has beat the biggest problem will ever face in my life up to that point, and probably the biggest obstacle in my life, period. If recovery principles got me out of the biggest problem folding shirts and being nice to customers and doing my job and being a responsible employee shouldn't have any issue. Long-term recovery principles. Throughout your whole life, become recovery focused. Sober Caddy Chronicles, let's talk about what's truly going on.